Hi everyone, in today's video I'm going to be sharing the 7 things I wish I knew in my 20s that would have changed my life for the better. And the 6th and 7th one are the ones that I regret the most. Let's get into the video as we discuss these 7 things. The number one thing was that I didn't trust God enough. Not that I didn't believe in God, but I've given my life to Christ since the age of 12, I believe. So I knew who God was. I grew up in a Christian home, and I used to read my Bible, but I never fully trusted God. And this one thing alone didn't make me achieve a lot of things. And I would explain. And I think in my second year, I should be around 21 there, and maybe just about 20. I started working on my skill, because I sort of like believed that if I had a good skill, because I studied computer science, so it was a tech skill. So if I had a good tech skill, I would secure a job or I would be able to start a business, so to speak. But the thing that I didn't realize about trusting God is the fact that I trusted in my abilities more than I trusted in God. And here is what I mean. I came from a country where before you can, that's what I used to think. Before you can sort of like secure a job, you have to know someone. And based on the fact that I knew who my parents hung around, I I never saw the possibility of getting a job just because I'm favored by God, if you get what I mean. So I thought to myself, if I develop this skill and then I graduate from university, I would be more employable, right? I would be like the preferred choice over every other person that just went to the school, got the degree, and never had like a real sort of like graphic design, web design kind of skill, is what I'm talking about here in this context. So I trusted in my skill, right? I trusted in what I've taught myself, but I never fully trusted God. I remember the scripture, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, is what the scripture says. In my case, I was trusting in my abilities. In fact, I think at some point I was boastful. I had pride. Funny enough, I got the opportunities that I thought were great, but now that I think back to it, they were not that great. It's just in my head that I have the feeling that they are great opportunities. They weren't great if I'm to be very honest with you, right? And I could have done more if I had trusted God. God might have placed me in like certain places that would have transformed my life positively and would have skyrocketed my journey through life. I'm in my 30s now, and now I know better. I know to fully trust God, right? I'm not saying you shouldn't develop your skill, but what I'm saying here is that as you're developing your skill, also trust that God would help you, right? Depend on God more than you depend on your skill, is what I'm saying. So don't just develop your skill. Develop your skill with trust in God. Don't believe that once you have the skill, the opportunities will automatically come. I found out that it doesn't work that way. Even in my 20s, I knew that, right? Because I used to be an entrepreneur and a business person right from when, even before I left my university, and I realized that there'll be some weeks that you would have zero jobs, right? In fact, you can go 2 3 months without a job, right? Or without getting a call from someone. Then after like 2 days, or after like maybe after the third month, and 2 days after you probably talk to God, or you probably pray to God and be like, God, now I want to depend on you. Bring a job my way. In fact, sometimes it might just be a couple of hours. Someone random will just call me and be like, oh, there's this opportunity. Are you interested? Right? So that's how God works. I think, and I think the lesson God was trying to teach me then was that I should fully depend on Him and not depend on my soft skill. I would advise you, if you're in your 20s, I think you should fully depend on God. Develop your skill. I'm not undermining skill development. Develop your skill and then put your trust in God. The second thing is that I didn't work with like minds, and here is why. I did at some point, but I didn't fully embed myself within a community of friends that had the same sort of like thought process as I have. Although some of the friends that I kept in my 20s taught me a few things, right? But in order for me to be great, you need to work with great minds. In order for you to be a millionaire, that's how I like to say it, you need to work with people that are millionaires so that they can show you the secret, or they can help you answer your questions, right? I recently heard someone speak this week, and the person said, a poor man makes statements while the rich man asks questions. You're right. So, and let me give you an example. A poor man would say, uh, I will do this when I'm rich, or I'll buy that car when I get rich. But a wealthy man would say, what do I have to do to get the car? What business do I have to create to get the car, right? Or if for example, let's take real estate for example. A poor man would say, oh, when I start earning a certain amount of salary, I'll buy my first house. A rich man would say, what business can I start now, right? Or would ask a question, what business can I start now that will enable me buy my first house, right? So, and I learned that from a rich man, obviously, right now. But in my 20s, I wish someone has spoken to me about that. Someone has embedded that sort of like knowledge in me to always ask questions whenever I'm faced with a challenge. Most times when we are faced with challenges, we tend to make excuses and we tend to not ask questions. You not asking question is not helping your situation at all. When you ask the right question and you think deep, and we're going to get to thinking in a minute, when you ask the right question and you research and think deep, you would always find an answer. Now, the benefit of working with like-minded friends is that it will give you the push that you need to elevate yourself. If you tend to sort of like work alone or work with people that are not as intelligent as you, or not that I'm undermining anybody, but when the people you surround yourself with are not as intellectually sound as you are or more than you, they tend to like drag you down rather than push you up, right? In my 20s, in fact, some of my friends now are very intelligent people. They are still my friends up to now. They were with me in my 20s, but not throughout the time I was in my 20s. Sometimes, most like the majority of the time I worked alone, but at some certain point in my life, in fact, I developed my business skill and majority of my creative skill from working with some certain friends. I would never dispute that, right? They enable me elevate my skill, elevate my creative process and my creative thinking. They also helped me develop my business skill. Even though I went to a business school like maybe towards when I was like 26, 27. However, before I went to the business school, they were the ones that taught me different business terminologies, ideologies, and all, right? And that's one of the benefits of working with like-minded friends or people that are way knowledgeable than you are. If you, like I said before, if you work with people that are not as smart as you or as not as knowledgeable as you are, they tend to like drag you down. So surround yourself with company. Another thing that I would embed is that I never had a mentor, because the concept of mentor didn't make sense to me. I felt like, oh, you have to literally approach someone and tell the person, oh, please be my mentor. Nah, there are several things you can do or there are several people you can place as your mentor, even if they don't know you, right? All you have to do is connect to them, read their books, watch their video materials, if there is any, read their articles, right? Those were the things I didn't do in my 20s that I regret so much. I wish I had connected with someone and studied the way they did things, right? And probably I would have probably met them in my 30s. But now I'm just discovering that, having a mentor is really key to your progress in life and your sort of like your self development. The other thing is that, or the other thing that I also regret which is the third thing right now, is that um, I didn't study, right? So I would say study more, right? Uh, I wish I knew that reading books or reading materials about personal development, growth, business growth, or entrepreneurship uh, is uh, is good for for me. I wish I knew that every knowledge I consume will be embedded in me. So the trick about book reading is that you might not be able to consume all the things written in a book, cover to cover or page to page. However, every time I've read a book, at least I go away from the book thinking, number one, different, and also stuck with an ideology from the book. Every book I've read. And the funny thing is that sometimes I get really bored reading books. However, before I get to sort of like that boring stage, I've already grabbed the the lesson I want to learn from the book, right? And I think it was I think his name is Nava Marik, and he sort of like mentioned this in one of his book. I'll probably link it up in the description below. And one thing he spoke about is the fact that everybody you see that has read like a certain amount of books, or you see them talk about, oh, you have to read this book, you have to read that book, that most times it's not as if all of them have read the book from like page to page or cover to cover. However, they've mastered the art of reading quickly and assimilating quickly, right? And sometimes some of them might not even get the point out of the book the first read. Some of them read it like two, three times, like Bishop Oyedepo, who is a famous preacher in Nigeria, usually talks about the fact that some of his revelation, you know, that didn't come from the Bible, come from books, right? And the way he explained it is that sometimes it's on the third trial that the revelation jumps to him. You see, that's why it's important to read book. There are some things that I know now that honestly I give it to the books that I've read. I don't read a lot. I don't pride myself of being a good reader right now, but I'm doing much more better than what I what I attempted in my 20s. In my 20s, I was more concerned about just getting money, finding jobs. I never really sat down to read and leverage that. Yes, I read in school because I was compelled to. I read. I did when I did my masters. I was still in my 20s as well. I read a lot of research. I read a lot of books because our exams are. Anyways, that does not matter. Our exams are written, and you have to sort of like write comprehensive or um comprehensive essays, to pass. So you have to do a lot of readings, and you have to make a lot or write a lot of arguments in your essays, basically. So anyways, that was for like more or less like the business side. But what I didn't do is I didn't read books about the biography of some of the people I envisioned to be like. I didn't study them. I didn't see what they did or what they do or how they thought, right? But it took me to start doing some research in my 30s before I realized that there were a lot of things that I was missing in my 20s, which is book reading, that I should have picked up at an early age. So if you're in your 20s right now, this is the best time to find a book to read. You can read books like, Rich Dad Poor Dad, right? To change your money game, to change the way you think about finances and all of that. Um, However, in fact, I think it's called The Wealthy Man in Babylon is another great book. It will teach you about investment, about how to spend your money and all of that. So reading in my 20s was in fact, if I'm going to put it on a scale of 1 to 10, maybe I read 2 out of 10, which is not enough in my opinion. Um, the other thing I didn't do in my 20s is that I didn't think more. I had a sort of like limited thought process. Most times when I encounter an issue, I just find my way around it and dodge it. I don't fully, oh my God, the sun, damn. Okay, so I don't fully or critically think about the problem. I tend to avoid the problem. But what I've realized in my 30s is that thinking is actually a good thing. However, the way our brain is structured is to find the safest method out of every situation we put ourselves in. And here's what I mean. The other day, I was looking to screw a nut in my garage, and I was lacking a particular tool. Like I didn't have that tool. I was just about to give up. And I was like, let me test this thinking thing. So I paused for a minute and I started thinking of what I can do to screw the knot. Believe you me, an idea came to me exactly maybe like 45 seconds after I told myself to think. It was like, God, why have I not been using this methodology since? Why have I not been pushing myself to think more? Most times we find ourselves in a place where we avoid thinking. It's easy for us to see an obstacle and just find our way around it. As humans, we are more prone to stay in our safe and comfort zone. However, that is really bad. And I say this because a lot of time the solution that we are looking for is right in front of us, but our brain is not saying it. Our brain is not pushing itself enough to see that there is a way out of every difficulty. So I wish in my 20s I had learned how to think this way. I learned how to process my thoughts and achieve certain results, right, that I don't have right now. But right now, bro, if I'm faced with any challenge, in fact, although I don't pray for challenges, but there are things that come my way, as a multiple business owner right now. The first thing I do is I relax and I'm like, yo, think. And trust me, after about 5, 10 minutes, sometimes it might even take a day of critical thinking that I eventually find the solution to that problem. There is this particular theory of uh, of thinking, right? Or a sort of like there are two types of mindsets, right? As researched by a woman named Carol Dweck. It addresses the tendency of giving up. So there are two types of mindset. The first one is the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. So the fixed mindset are people with this mindset sort of like see abilities as static. That's what I explained earlier, and may avoid challenges, and they give up easily and see effort as pointless, right? If they believe they can't succeed. Once you believe you can't succeed like this, you just see that every other thing is pointless, right? So this is the problem with people not thinking enough, right? But people with the growth mindset, they think differently, right? They see challenges as opportunities. They don't get worried or sad or anxious because there's a challenge in front of them. They don't try to avoid it. They see it as an opportunity. When you play games, when you play board games or card games, you kind of face challenges in those games. And me, I like to pick lessons from playing games like that because it helps me to think critically, and I can apply the same methodology I apply in a game to my real life situation. So I would advise you that in your 20s, you should have a growth mindset. Always spend time to think. Don't hold yourself back and don't try and avoid the problem. When you are faced with a problem, make sure you sit down and think critically of ways to which you can bring yourself out of the situation. The other thing that I didn't do as well is I didn't speak more, right? I didn't do a lot of like speaking engagements. I didn't put myself out there. I didn't have meaningful conversations. And this is what I mean by meaningful conversations. when we go out and we meet people, or we meet people that are much more successful, I don't have conversations with them. I mean, I greet them, but I don't ask them critical questions. I don't ask them thought-provoking questions. Those were the things I avoided in my 20s. I don't want people to get offended. I'm an introvert, essentially, so I always avoid having a conversation. However, I've grown to know that, a conversation with someone that is much more successful can be what you need to take you from, stage A to stage B, or stage one to stage two. Without having this sort of like conversations with people, you can never find out what they know or what they've done to get them to where they are. If there's this famous saying that, a closed mouth is a closed destiny. If you can't speak and ask people questions, you would be stuck. And that's the truth. You will be stuck. You won't find solutions easily. You can think, but your idea, or your the results you get from your thinking, will be limited. But when you speak to someone that has been more successful, it's easier for that person to help you out than for the person to than for you to try and help yourself, right? So when you are around people that are successful, my advice is to always ask them question, ask them how they got to where they are. In fact, sometimes just ask them, how did they eventually, arrived at this state? Were they ever broke, or were they ever not successful? Have they failed before, right? This kind of question will bring up conversations that you yourself will be wowed about. Things you've never seen, or the patterns you've never seen in someone, would be revealed to you when you ask them uh, these kind of questions. Also, you have to also create more in your 20s. You have to create more in your 20s, right? Most times, most of the people that I know that are in their 20s right now, when I have a conversation with them, I used to sort of like ask them what their interest is. Where does their interest lie? What do they like to do? And they are always confused. And in my head, I'm like, when I was in my 20s, I knew what my passion was, but I didn't just create enough, right? I didn't feel confident enough to create as much as I would have loved to, right? In my 30s, I created more in my 30s. I'm almost in my mid 30s right now. I've created more than I've created in the whole of my 20s. In developing yourself, in order for you to find out where your interests lie, in order for you to elevate yourself, you need to create more. I've seen people in their 20s right now that are amazing artists, amazing graphic designer, amazing painters, because they decided to create more. Right from their teenage age, they are like a point of reference in the society. Like two people are coming to my head right now. When you see their work right now, they're still in their 20s and they are doing great. So for me, one of the things that I regret that I didn't do, this is one of the things that I regret the most, is that I didn't create more. I didn't get in front of the camera. I didn't speak more. I didn't share my wisdom with people. I didn't share my values with people. I didn't share what's it called, my skill with a lot of people. Like I didn't teach people, just because I made several excuses in my head. I felt like, people would judge me. I had I had anxiety. I wouldn't say fear right now, because my ideology about fear just recently changed, because it's not fear. It was just a current feeling. I was anxious about what people would think about me. I was I never had the positive side of a belief system. I never had faith in myself. I never trusted myself. It was all negative. I'm always feeling like, I'm not, who am I? I'm not confident enough. I can't speak good enough. I made up all of these excuses in my head, and hence I couldn't create as much I would have loved to create, right? So this one is really painful because I wish I had done that in my 20s. I promise you I won't be where I am right now. I wish I had created more and showed my work uh, to the world, right? In my 30s, when I started creating about maybe 3 or 4 years ago, I saw the difference like immediately. When I started sharing my skill with the world, I saw the difference. There was like a transformation in my business, right? People that didn't know that I had certain skill started contacting me, started giving me jobs. There were several opportunities that came my way. There were several people that engaged me in several uh, business opportunities, right? I bought my fresh real estate because I was online. I had discussion with people, I connected with like minds, those things. I got into business as well because I put myself out there, right? Like recently someone came to my studio, and I think if anybody comes to my studio, anyways, if you're coming for the first time, the first question I ask you is, where did you find us, or how did you even find us? They said they saw me on TikTok, right? That's one of the platform that I never even really pay attention to. What I do is create the content, go on the app, post the content. I don't even check the metrics, right? And someone came to use the studio because they saw us on TikTok. Use your 20s, see it as an opportunity to create and put yourself out there. The least you would ever be known is now, because in the future, if you stay consistent, more people will find out about you, right? And if you want to elevate your business, I'm telling you this right now. If you want to elevate your business, the best way or the best thing to do to elevate yourself and elevate your business and take your business from one level to the other is to make yourself findable. If you are eating, if you think you are skillful and you are not showing off your art, you are not showing off your skill, people wouldn't find you. There is no two way about it. If no matter the kind of no matter how good you are, no matter how amazing your work is, no matter how skillful you are, if you don't put yourself out there in the marketplace, people wouldn't find you, right? It is easier. What I've discovered is it's easier for people to find you than for you to go find customer, right? And here's what I mean. It's when someone sees what you can do online without you directly marketing to them, right? They might not even be your follower. They might not even like your post. This is one thing I tell all of the people I consult with. I tell them, because you are not seeing engagement on your post doesn't mean your post is not working. There are several people checking out your post, but they are not engaging because it's not because they don't like you, not because they don't want to connect with your content. It's just because they just don't want to, right? They just don't feel like connecting to you right now. But subconsciously in their head, they've seen you, right? When the opportunity comes or when they want to use your service, they will come find you, right? So the least you would ever be known is now. And if you don't make yourself findable, it will be difficult for you to grow your business, to grow your business essentially. So make yourself findable. Put your stuff out there. Create more. Don't don't hide in one corner and believe, oh, someone I would go to networking events, or I'm not discrediting networking events, but I prefer to come online than to go to networking events, because I can I might not be able to build one-on-one relationship with people online. However, I'm making it easier for my potential customer to find me, right? Rather for me to go out and then put all of my energy in looking for clients and convincing someone that I'm good enough, whereas I'm already producing content online that can show the other man or the other person that I'm good, right? So why would I waste my time? Um, why would I waste my time going after customers when I know for sure when I create internally or create on my page, people would find me. So create more, put your content out there. I'm honestly, this one is so painful that I didn't do this in my 20s. It's such, honestly. Anyways, and the final one is I didn't take action, right? I wasn't an action taker and I didn't take enough risk. I was risk adverse. If it's risky, if I'm going to lose money, I'm out. I don't I don't stress myself. But I've learned in my 30s that in order for you to elevate yourself, you need to take risk. You need to take risk. You need, and I mean calculated risk. Please don't take uncalculated risk, right? However, you need to take risk. You need to take action. If you've if you have been thinking about an idea and the idea has been stuck in your head, you know, there is no point for you not to take action on the idea. To me, it doesn't make sense. As long as you have the resources, even if you are limited or on resources and you think that, oh, it's difficult for me to get certain resources, it's difficult for me to get money to do this X, Y, and Z investment. Figure out a way. Like I said initially, I think it would make sense for you guys to read this book. It's called The Boss Move. I'll leave it in the description below. That book would open your mind, right? It will make you see that taking action is really important, right? Because and asking questions whenever you are faced with a challenge is really important, right? In order for you to take action, even though you are limited, even though your resources is limited, what you need to be doing is not saying, "Oh, I will take this action when I eventually get this." Don't make a statement. Ask a question. What do I need to do to get the money that I need to make this investment? Right? The one of the greatest way to earn passive income is real estate. Right? I wish I started real estate in my 20s. I'll probably be like I'll probably be earning like 8 figures right now, right? 7 to 8 figures maybe. So I mean, however, I eventually started when I was in my 30s, you know. But I wish I had put in the work that was needed. I wish I had asked myself questions, the right questions that would have generated the certain resource I needed to use for investment, you know. So my advice to you is whatever you're thinking about, make sure you take action. Don't relax and think of taking the action in the future because the magic you're looking for is in the work you are avoiding.